Welcome to the Nimiq Podcast. I'm Basti, your host today for the talk about the Zero Knowledge Proof Setup Ceremony. To talk about this, I'm here with Pascal, core developer of the team, and Ines, our technical writer of the team. How are you guys doing?
All good.
Very well, yes. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. Forgot to do this. Excellent. To start this off, just to give some context, what is the zero knowledge proofs used for within the Nimiq protocol anyways?
Yeah, go for that. So we are using zero knowledge proofs to basically prove the macro chain, and we have the prover nodes who generate those proofs, and we basically assist full nodes and light nodes to quickly sync to the chain. And the zero knowledge proofs do that in a small proof that is constant in size. And it's recursive, so it's very quick to generate a proof after a proof after a proof.
All right.
In essence, it means we don't have to download gigabytes of data, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds very useful to have. And to get a little bit more into the ceremony, why is a ceremony like this even required to facilitate zero knowledge proofs like that?
So it actually depends on the type of zero knowledge proof you are using, and the one we are using is so-called ZK and we're using a proving system now. It gets a bit technical, called Graph16. But essentially, this type of zero knowledge proof will require some keys, a prover key and a verification key, and they are specific to the statement you're proving. And the problem is, if one person generates these keys, there's a byproduct, which is also called toxic waste. And if you know this toxic waste, you can prove any false statement. So you can fake proofs.
So you can forge proofs.
Exactly. And that's obviously bad for the security. And that's why this kind of setup is usually called a trusted setup, because you need to trust this person to do everything right and to destroy the toxic waste. But trusting in one person is difficult. And a ceremony is there for removing parts of the trust or disputing the trust. So in the end, the ceremony does the same thing. It creates these keys that we need. But as long as one of the participants that participates in the ceremony is honest and destroys the toxic waste, it's secure. The others can't recover the toxic waste. The others can't forge proofs as long as there's one honest person.
So you would need the toxic waste of all participants to have the proper
Correct.
Toxic waste to forge proofs with.
Exactly. Only if all of them combine theirs,
I see.
then you could forge.
Okay, very interesting. To dive a little bit deeper, how does a ceremony like this even work? What are the steps involved in this? What is it like?
Yeah, so first we need two phases. To generate the keys, the parameters of the keys, right?
The general parameters
Exactly.
that are only specific to the curve that we're using or the
Yes.
pairing. And then
In the second phase, we generate the keys itself.
the keys itself specialized on the statements we want to prove.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So two phases.
Two phases.
How long are they going to be? Is there any ballpark number as to how long stuff like this takes?
It depends on the number of participants in the end.
Yeah.
We can have as many participants as we want, but obviously we don't want the whole thing to run for years.
Well,
So there's no strict time limit when it needs to end. We are a bit flexible in that. Also, some of the participants can contribute in parallel, not all of them. So there is some sequential action involved. And so what we know from other ceremonies is that they usually run for a few months and have maybe a couple of hundred to even thousands of contributors, depending on how it's being done. The very first ones maybe had only tens, but I think the one that we based ours on from Cello had hundreds, okay.
Contributors, yeah.
Okay, not bad.
In the order of magnitude of 100.
Okay. Yeah, that also segues a little bit nicely into my next question, which is basically when considering there's like a very high interest for this, how is this then managed to make the ceremony still run smoothly? Because as I understand it, you need to basically know something in advance out of the participants, and then they also need to show up.
So there are several things involved. First of all, you need to register. You create your own key pair. You send us only the public key, and you need to also keep your private key, don't lose it until it was your turn. That was one of the main things that happened when we tested the ceremony locally to make sure that everything works. And then at some point we'll tell you it's your turn. So you need to start this program and you need to run the program. It will be computationally heavy, so it will use probably 100% of your CPU for quite a while. Quite a while means a few hours until even maybe a day or so, depending on your CPU, how good your computer is. And only then, when the program stops and says, oh, you're done, then you're released of your duty for one of the phases. Ideally, you contribute to both phases. That means the same thing will happen twice. The phases are sequential. So you generate another key for the second phase to send us that key, and you do the same thing. The process is super similar, but you need to do it twice.
But also the participation in one phase does not require you to also participate in the other. Not strictly.
Not strictly. It's obviously something we want, because we want to have as many people in both phases. So if people have the time, that's fine. We can also always add participants while the phase is running. So if you didn't register before and it's running and you realize, oh, this is going on, I want to participate, it's still fine, you can.
But ideally,
ideally also to know how many people we have, and to do the math, how long things will be taking. Pre-registration is great.
Okay, nice. So the next question would then be, what is sort of the implication of a successful ceremony like that? First of all, for our ecosystem or our blockchain in specific, but also for the wider crypto space as a whole.
For Nimiq itself, it means that people can trust the zero-knowledge proofs that we create. And that means if you don't use a full client that downloads the whole blockchain, but a light client that only downloads the zero-knowledge proof and jumps basically a lot of the blocks, then you can be sure that these proofs are valid and not forged, as long as one of the participants of the ceremony was honest, which hopefully is the case if we have a lot of participants, right?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And it also has some implications for the wider crypto space or other projects, because these parameters of the phase one that we create, they are not specific to the statements we prove. They can be used by anyone. Anyone who wants to use this specific kind of zero-knowledge proof on these specific cryptographic elliptic curves that we are using can reuse these results, run their own second phase, and have zero-knowledge proofs with that.
So that simplifies the setup for anybody else using the same like phase one parameters, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, interesting. So to basically kind of a similar question as one that I posed before, but maybe diving a little bit deeper on the technical side of things. How is this ceremony like on a technical level? How is this actually facilitated, and how does it reach those goals of providing a trustworthy setup, even if only one participant is honest?
Okay, so maybe I should first tell a bit more about the organization of it. We talked about the two phases, that's one part of it, and then there are multiple rounds. I hinted at it before when I said some people can actually participate in parallel. So each round will consist of multiple participants contributing in parallel. Basically, we need to get a lot of data. It needs to be computed, and we divide that into small chunks. So each participant can, in a round, basically work on one of these chunks. Once it's finished, we work on another chunk and so on. And we probably will have like 6-7 people per round working on parallel. And then we have multiple of these rounds until we have all the participants done, basically. And all that organization involves first an automated coordinator, which makes sure that you don't work on the same thing as someone else at the same time. But also it requires manual work, because as soon as the next round starts, we need to verify that everything went well in the previous round. We need to know who's the next person to start. Maybe the persons for the next round are not reachable, so we might need to swap participants and things like that. There's some manual work involved for sure, and it's not little. But yeah, some of the work is done by a very dumb but important program that makes sure no two people are doing the same thing, and the other work will be on us. And then you had the second part of the question, which
Yes.
was odd.
That's fine. It's about how the goal is reached, that a single honest participant makes sure that the entire process yields a trustworthy setup key, or whatever the outcome of that ceremony like this is, so that you can trust that outcome of that ceremony.
Yeah, so basically there are two parts to this. First of all, it is important that every participant computes the computations correctly, and that can be verified by outsiders. We'll run our own verifiers, but at the end of the ceremony, everyone gets basically the whole list of computations called a transcript and can verify it too. And the second part to it is that everyone has their own private key, right? You send your public key to us, but the private key is on you. And you have this plus some randomness, and you add this to the overall computation. And to get to this toxic waste, you would need to know all of the private keys of all of the persons. So as long as one person destroys the private key, there's no way of getting to the original, let's say, concatenation of all private keys, right? And that's how it's achieved.
So it basically works a little bit like an aggregated key pair in some sense, where if I know all of the private keys, I can basically aggregate them together and have a key that can actually perform.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's similar to that. Not exactly, but I don't want to go into the deep math, but it's definitely a good analogy.
Okay, very interesting. And I think that is all the questions that I had for today. Oh no, I don't. Wait, we do cut this out too. Many cuts. Today, many cuts. We do this with all the cuts. So maybe lastly, how can people who are interested in this, or are people who are going to be interested in contributing, how can they stay updated and get to know about the ceremony?
Okay, so we're going to have a blog post about this, and we will also link some documentation to know how the steps are going to be. And obviously we are going to do this in advance, so people can fill a form and participate when we say we are ready.
Yeah. All right. Then thank you so much, Pascal. Thank you so much, Ines. Very informative episode of the podcast today. And for all of you, if you like to learn more about this, subscribe to this channel. And yeah, take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.